going to say
Senator,
that
you're
your
attempting
lack
to
of
win
an
political
answer
points on the backs of
confirms what we've
mischaracterizing
known
the
all
statements of a
along.
member
The Trump
of my
administration
department,
is not serious.
and I'm not going to stand for that.
You are not a serious person. You are not serious about rooting out, fighting anti-Semitism within the ranks of our DOD. It's despicable. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Well, Senator, I would not advise believing everything you read in the media. And I'm consulted on every single decision.
Okay,
I'm the
so that's
decision maker
alarming.
for the department, and we all
department,
serve
Mr.
at the pleasure of the president.
Okay.
And
So
we have the
what was your-
prerogative to
what
make
was
those
your
decisions
what
for
was
the
your
best for the
recommendation?
country,
Did
and
you
we did
personally
that.
approve Mr. Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
Well, the time
And I am
of the
going to
senator.
say, Mr. Secretary, you're either feckless or complicit. You're not in control of your department.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First. Today, we're diving deep into what I consider to be one of the most disgraceful displays of political theater we've witnessed in recent Senate hearings. Before we get started, if you believe in putting America first and supporting strong conservative leadership, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. Also, if you want to help us keep this channel running and continue producing content that fights back against the radical left's narrative, please consider supporting us on our Patreon page at patreon.com/AmericaFirst for as low as $5 a month. Every dollar helps us stay independent and keep bringing you unfiltered conservative commentary. Now, let's talk about what happened in this Senate hearing, because what I witnessed was nothing short of a coordinated attack on Secretary Hegseth and the Trump administration's ability to clean house and put America first. What we just witnessed in that Senate hearing transcript is exactly why the American people voted for Donald Trump and exactly why we need fighters like Secretary Hegseth in positions of leadership.
And again, thank you, Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, for holding this hearing, Mr. Secretary. We have a short amount of time, so I'm just going to ask a few simple questions, and I would just appreciate if, for some of them, you would just answer yes or no. And so, Secretary Hegseth, would you agree that every senior official in the Department of Defense must reflect the values and conduct that our service members must uphold and our citizens expect?
Senator, we want to uphold the highest possible standards.
I'll take that for a yes. So would you also agree, then, that anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories have no place in our government or military? Yes or no?
They should not.
Thank you. So would you also agree that anyone who has posted, and I'm going to quote, anti-Semitic conspiracy theories lifted right out of a neo-Nazi playbook, end quote, shouldn't be anywhere near a position of power? Yes or no?
Since I don't believe the characterization of many officials in the news media, I would need to see precisely what's being characterized.
But generally, would you not say that if
Generally
we
speaking,
thought
sure.
something was coming out of a neo-Nazi playbook, it doesn't have any place in our Department of Defense? Now, Secretary Hegseth, the quote that I just read you was referencing Ms. Kingsley Wilson, the DOD press secretary. It's a direct quote from her, who my Republican colleagues on this committee have also expressed alarm over due to her comments. In fact, one colleague said, and I'm going to quote again, "Obviously, I don't agree with her comments. I trust the Pentagon will address this," end quote. However, in the months since, not only have you not addressed these anti-Semitic comments, you have promoted Ms. Wilson. This seems to be at odds, honestly, with President Trump's commitment, very public commitment, to combat anti-Semitism, which you just said you too agreed with. So, Secretary Hegseth, given the rise in anti-Semitic violence, hate crimes in our nation, and to show that the Trump administration, your administration, does have a zero-tolerance policy for anti-Semitism, will you dismiss Ms. Kingsley from her role as a U.S. military spokesperson today, yes or no?
Again, that's why I referenced the context and characterization.
Well, we'll send you the quote,
I've worked
sir.
directly with her. She does a fantastic job, and there's any suggestion that I or her or others are party to anti-Semitism is a mischaracterization attempting to win political points.
Sir, and I'm going to say
Senator,
that
you're
your
attempting
lack
to
of
win
an
political
answer
points on the backs of
confirms what we've
mischaracterizing the
known all
statements of a
along.
member
The Trump
of my
administration
department,
is not serious.
and I'm not going to stand for that.
You are not a serious person. You are not serious about rooting out, fighting anti-Semitism within the ranks of our DOD. It's despicable. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I'm going to move on to General Hawk. The sudden inexplicable dismissal of General Hawk He serves as both director of the National Security Agency, commander of U.S. Cybercom. It's deeply concerning, raises significant questions about the decision-making process, its potential consequences. Public reports indicate that the removal of General Hawk, who has served his country proudly, has been influenced by social media influencer, a personality on social media, Laura Loomer, spreads conspiracy theories. She's been denounced even by Republicans. And the idea is that any leaders within our agencies responsible for our nation's security, somebody would be dismissed based on the advice of a social media influencer is alarming, to say the least. It's surely not how we should be running our military. So were you consulted regarding General Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Well, Senator, I would not advise believing everything you read in the media.
Were you,
and I'm consulted on every single decision.
Okay,
I'm the
so that's
decision maker
alarming.
for the department, and we all
department,
serve at the pleasure of the president,
Okay.
and
So
we have the
what was your-
prerogative to
what
make
was
those
your
decisions
what
the
was your
best for the
recommendation?
country,
Did you
and we did
personally
that.
approve Mr. Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Anyone coming or going
Personally
at the
approve
Defense
it.
Department, especially at that level, would ultimately be a decision
So
made by
that's a
me,
yes.
and I
Did you
stand
personally
behind that.
relieve him?
Excuse
Did
me?
you personally relieve him? Yes or
Anyone
no?
at that level
You did,
who is
so that's a
relieved
yes.
would be relieved by the Secretary of Defense.
Was there a specific justification for General Hawk's dismissal? Was there a specific justification for General Hawk's dismissal?
Ma'am, we all serve at the pleasure of the president, and the president deserves the type
it
of
true?
commanders and advisors that he thinks will best
Did you
equip him
discuss General
to
Hawk's
accomplish the
dismissal with
mission.
Laura Loomer prior to his removal?
I don't discuss who I talk about anything with, but ultimately this is my decision, and he serves at the pleasure of the president, and that's why he's no longer there.
So do you believe it's appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in your department, yes or no?
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
Well, the time
And I
of
am
the
going to say,
senator-
Mr. Secretary, you're either feckless or complicit. You're not in control of your department. This is unserious. It is shocking. You're not combating anti-Semitism within your ranks. It's a dangerous and pivotal time in our nation's history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. And I don't appreciate the smirk, sir. You are the Secretary of Defense.
The time of the gentlelady has expired.
Senator Rosen's performance was a masterclass in how the establishment swamp operates, using loaded questions, character assassination, and manufactured outrage to try to undermine the people's choice for leadership. Let me break down what really happened here, because the mainstream media is going to spin this as some kind of victory for Rosen, but what I saw was a desperate politician trying to score cheap political points while our new Secretary of Defense is trying to do the hard work of reforming a broken Pentagon. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Senator Rosen comes out swinging with accusations about anti-Semitism, demanding yes or no answers to complex questions. This is a classic gotcha tactic used by politicians who don't want to engage in substantive policy discussions. They want sound bites, not solutions. Secretary Hegseth handled this professionally by refusing to play along with this theatrical nonsense. The attack on Kingsley Wilson is particularly telling. Here we have a dedicated public servant who is doing her job as DoD press secretary, and Senator Rosen is demanding her immediate dismissal based on what she calls quotes from a neo-Nazi playbook. But notice what Rosen doesn't do. She doesn't provide the full context of these statements. She doesn't explain what Wilson actually said or when she said it. She just throws around inflammatory language designed to create headlines, not solve problems. This is the same playbook the left has used for years. They take statements out of context, apply the most sinister interpretation possible, and then demand immediate action based on their manufactured outrage. Secretary Hegseth was absolutely right to push back on this and defend his team member. That's what real leadership looks like. You don't throw your people under the bus because some senator is having a tantrum for the cameras. And let's be clear about something else. Secretary Hegseth's response about not being party to anti-Semitism and calling out Rosen's political point scoring was spot on. The Trump administration has been one of the most pro-Israel administrations in American history. President Trump moved our embassy to Jerusalem, recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and brokered historic peace deals in the Middle East. For Senator Rosen to question this administration's commitment to fighting anti-Semitism is not just disingenuous, it's insulting to anyone who has been paying attention to the actual record. Now let's talk about the General Hawk situation, because this is where Rosen's desperation really shows. She's trying to create this narrative that personnel decisions at the Pentagon are being influenced by social media personalities like Laura Loomer. This is classic deep state thinking. They believe that once someone is in a position of power, they should be untouchable, regardless of whether they're aligned with the administration's goals or not. Here's what Senator Rosen and her establishment allies don't understand. Elections have consequences. When the American people vote for change, they expect change. That means personnel changes. That means new leadership. That means cleaning house of people who may have been aligned with the previous administration's failed policies. Secretary Hegseth was absolutely correct when he said that everyone serves at the pleasure of the president. That's how our system works. The president gets to choose his team, and when that team isn't working, he gets to make changes. The idea that this somehow represents a failure of leadership is backwards thinking that keeps the swamp in power. What really happened here is that Senator Rosen is upset that the Trump administration is actually following through on its promise to drain the swamp. She's upset that career bureaucrats and deep state operatives can't just coast along doing business as usual. She wants to preserve the status quo that has failed the American people for decades. Let's also address the broader context of what's happening at the Pentagon right now. For years, we've watched as our military has been weakened by woke policies, diversity initiatives that prioritize politics over merit, and leadership that seems more concerned with social engineering than national defense. The American people voted for change because they want a military that focuses on winning wars and protecting America, not pushing progressive ideology. Secretary Hegseth represents that change. He's a combat veteran who understands what it takes to build a strong military. He's not interested in playing politics with our national defense. He's interested in results. And that terrifies the establishment because they know their days of using the Pentagon as a social experiment are numbered. The fact that Senator Rosen is so upset about personnel changes tells you everything you need to know about where her priorities lie. She's not concerned about military readiness. She's not concerned about defending America. She's concerned about protecting the deep state network that has been running things for their own benefit rather than the American people's benefit. This brings us to a crucial point about the nature of leadership in the Trump era. Real leaders make tough decisions. They don't govern by poll numbers or worry about what their critics in the media will say. They do what's right for the country, even when it's unpopular with the establishment crowd. Secretary Hegseth demonstrated that kind of leadership in this hearing. When Senator Rosen tried to bully him into making personnel decisions based on her political preferences, he stood firm. When she tried to get him to throw his team members under the bus, he defended them. When she tried to suggest that outside voices shouldn't influence administration decisions, he reminded her that the president has the authority to make these choices. This is exactly the kind of backbone we need in our leadership. For too long, Republican officials have allowed themselves to be intimidated by aggressive Democratic questioning. They've apologized for things they shouldn't apologize for and caved to pressure when they should have stood strong. Secretary Hegseth showed that this administration is different. The mainstream media will undoubtedly frame this exchange as some kind of victory for Senator Rosen. They'll focus on her dramatic language and ignore the substance of Secretary Hegseth's responses. They'll play up the confrontational aspects while ignoring the policy implications. That's because they're not interested in informing the public. They're interested in advancing their political agenda. But here's what they can't ignore. The American people see through this theater. They understand that Senator Rosen's performance was all about generating headlines, not solving problems. They know that the real work of governing happens behind the scenes, not in front of television cameras during committee hearings. What we're witnessing is the establishment's last-ditch effort to maintain control over institutions that should be serving the American people, not the Washington elite. They're using every tool at their disposal, including character assassination and manufactured controversies, to try to stop the changes that the American people voted for. This is why it's so important that we continue to support leaders like Secretary Hegseth who are willing to stand up to this pressure. The swamp creatures are going to keep attacking anyone who threatens their power. They're going to keep using inflammatory language and false accusations to try to bring down people who are actually working for America first. The question is whether we're going to let them get away with it. Are we going to allow the same establishment figures who gave us decades of failed foreign policy and military decline to dictate terms to the administration that the American people elected to fix these problems? Or are we going to stand behind the people who are actually fighting for our interests? I know where I stand, and I hope you do too. This administration was elected to make changes, and that's exactly what it's doing. The personnel decisions at the Pentagon are part of a broader effort to restore American strength and put our national interests first. Anyone who has a problem with that is revealing where their true loyalties lie. Senator Rosen's performance in this hearing was a perfect example of everything that's wrong with Washington. Instead of working with the new administration to strengthen our military and protect our country, she's more interested in scoring political points and protecting the same failed establishment that got us into this mess in the first place. The good news is that Secretary Hegseth didn't take the bait. He stayed focused on his mission and refused to be intimidated by political theater. That's the kind of leadership we need, and that's why the American people voted for change. Patriots, what we witnessed in this Senate hearing is exactly why we need to stay engaged and keep fighting for America First policies. The establishment isn't going to give up their power without a fight, and they're going to use every dirty trick in the book to try to stop the changes we voted for. But we can't let them win. We need to continue supporting leaders like Secretary Hegseth who are willing to stand up to the swamp and put America's interests first. We need to stay informed about what's really happening, not what the mainstream media wants us to believe is happening. That's why channels like America First are so important. We're committed to bringing you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable for the establishment. We're going to keep calling out the political theater and focusing on the real issues that matter to American families. If you found this analysis helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with your friends and family who need to understand what's really happening in Washington. And don't forget to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/America First for as low as $5 a month. Together, we can make sure that America First isn't just a slogan, but a governing philosophy that puts our country and our people ahead of political games and establishment power plays. Thanks for watching, Patriots. Stay strong, stay informed, and keep fighting for America.